Hi, I'm Mark DiPietro. I'm the Vice President for Marketing and Communications at Landmark College. I've been at Landmark for 9 years and been working with Leah and the Belfort Group for seven, I think 6 or 7 years.
Yep, that's right. Hi, I'm Leah Gallagher. I am a senior vice president with the Belfort Group. I've been here about 7 years, and I've been working with Landmark College about that same amount of time, which we've really enjoyed and loved.
So Landmark College is fairly unique in the higher education landscape because we are a college that was founded for students who with learning disabilities or learning differences. And we serve a very specific niche of students, which includes those with dyslexia, ADHD, autism, executive function challenges. Um, and that means that for many of our students, the education experience up to this point has been difficult and maybe even unpleasant. So the traditional marketing of, come to college and have a great college experience is not always the best approach for our students. And secondarily, or maybe even primarily, we really market quite a bit to their parents. So the parent audience is very important to us, as is the educator audience. So we really consider that we have three segments of our audience that we need to market ourselves to.
Personalized marketing within the higher education landscape, is evolving. I will say, I 7 or 8 years ago when Mark and I started working together. The personalization component of marketing was really done at the nurture level, right? So it was really done at the bottom funnel when you were able to have a known contact who's, within your CRM, and you could look at really nice data points about them like, hey, this person's interested in this program. And then you could put a really nice nurture flow in front of them that says, hey, here's why our program's great for you. Now, we're able to do that, for better or worse, you could argue, at a very high level, starting from search campaigns, starting from paid social. So we're able to do much more personalized journeys based on what people are searching off of, right? So engine marketing campaigns, Google ads, those sort of things, we can really target people down to where they're searching. We can target, based off of the programs, we know immediately what they're looking for by their search queries. We also are able to look at, behaviors that they're exhibiting. So we can really, you know, focus in on giving them the right ads, the right content, the right journey down to showing them why we're a great fit for them. So I think generally in education, that's what we tend to see is, we've moved from that bottom funnel known lead to being able to really accurately deploy marketing to what I'd call your stealth audience to allow them to better make decisions about, what programs, what schools are right for them. In terms of how we've really been able to use personalized marketing for Landmark College, I think again, we've been building different strategies over the last, I think it's 8 years now, Mark. We've been able to kind of move up based off of what we've seen available to us in the way we customize and personalize journeys. So, where we started with that bottom funnel, now what we look at is how do we make sure that we're building out campaigns from search down that really help to give people the information they need about Landmark College. And that can be challenging in the sense that Landmark College serves a lot of different needs and has a lot of different paths for students. So, part of I think what Landmark was built on, and Mark can speak more to this, is that there isn't one straightforward journey for every person. You really need the ability to take a path that fits your needs. So, how do you build that into marketing campaigns? Well, customized marketing and personalized marketing has made that really has given us a great opportunity to do that more effectively with a school like Landmark, because what we're doing is we're looking at the kind of commonalities of what people are searching on. We're looking at the pain points that we're able to identify for people, and then we're building a journey around that so that they really understand if someone's searching for, resources, even things that they have trouble with, we have places that we can take them on site to help them understand not just what Landmark College can do for them, but how a parent can be better equipped to support their child and their needs. So our campaigns have become really robust in the way that we're able to serve those communities. So taking this from a tactical component, in terms of how we build strategy, we really layer campaigns, right? We do at the top level brand awareness. We're putting in front of you certainly resources from Landmark College, but also who Landmark College is, who it's meant to serve. And we're able to then, do really great retargeting campaigns from there where we say, okay, now that we know some, degree of your interest and what your needs are, we're able to put in front of audiences that we don't know that are still stealth, we're able to put really interesting and compelling content that helps them to identify and recognize what Landmark College can do for them without having to have that one-to-one conversation. So that's really what the personalization in our journeys looks like. It's not always about, hey, it's not like I always say this, it's not like selling a sweater. It's not like someone went to your website, looked at that sweater, and you can spit back to them, hey, here's that sweater you've been wanting. It's really about, understanding kind of the path forward for your customer and for your audience.
Yeah, and I think everything Leah just said really accurately describes why for Landmark specifically personalization matters so much. For one thing, we're a small college. We have about 450 residential undergrad students. That's not including our online component, but and so the whole educational model is really built on personal attention. And as Leah said, our philosophy is that every learner learns differently. And for students who have some kind of diagnosed learning difference, that is even more important because they may they may need a different set of applications that they can use in the classroom. They may be more tactile or more visual. And so our universal design model really addresses that. And in our marketing, we have to get that across, but we also need to we need to speak to the audience where they are, and knowing where they are, of course, is the challenge of any marketing campaign. But for one of the things I love that we've done with the Belfort Group is we came up with some, sort of diagnosis specific marketing campaigns that focused on an actual student. So I'm thinking of one, Leah, that I know you'll remember, Isaac, where he talks about his ADHD, and we show him playing basketball, and we show him being a quote unquote normal college student, but also having this other specific challenge that made college life more difficult for him, and how Landmark helped him solve that. So that's really where we've tried to drill down, with maybe short little personalized stories that get at something that anyone can identify with, but certainly a student or a parent, especially who has a child with a learning disability, can watch and say, that could be my kid. I see so many similarities there. And Landmark could be the place that helps them, crack the code of how they're going to get a college degree, or maybe even just get to that next level where they need to move on. They may only come to Landmark for a year, get some of those skills they need, and either move on to another college or go into the workplace. So as Leah said, we're pretty complex because we offer all of those paths, including a high school program that we offer in the summer. We're also, trying to get at the high school student audience and their parents, as well as the college student audience. So I think we've done a pretty good job of segmenting like what those messages should be for each audience, how to personalize it in the sense of, showing examples of how our students have succeeded at school, in the workplace, and then really highlighting that in our marketing and our retargeting campaigns.
I think that again, there's a lot of beauty in what we've been able to do with personalized marketing. I think that one of the pitfalls that we've seen fall out from recently is people start to feel like they're being intruded upon in some ways, right? I think one of the challenges, but also the opportunities around what we do is because of privacy and because of the sensitive nature of the audiences that we deal with, meaning there are privacy restrictions around the ability to target on, as there should be, a specific learning disability or a learning challenge, because that's someone's personal information. So I think we've been really good. Mark used the example of the campaigns, the diagnosis specific campaigns. We are really giving people the information they want, I think, without being too intrusive, right? So I think Mark brought up the point about it's challenging for students because a lot of times they haven't had a great experience in leading up to the college search. So it can be really one of the early challenges we faced with Landmark College's marketing was that you need to speak differently to the parent audience and the student audience. So that was the first and biggest segmentation that I think we really created. And that personalization and segmentation was a really great opportunity because it allowed us to parse out those audiences and create different messaging for each, and I guess serve those audiences and their own needs. So while those two come together, and really what Landmark College offers is the perfect marrying of both, in my opinion. Students didn't care about one side and parents didn't care about the other as much, and this was the first opportunity we had to really break that out and say, we can talk to you each about what your interests are. So I think that's been a really great component of personalized marketing. I think one of the challenges was, while I think it's a great thing that, your personal information is protected, on the other side of it, it's harder because we have to use other tactics to find those students. And the nice thing about working with Landmark College's marketing team is, Mark, you and your team know your audience so deeply, and you've, allowed us kind of that insight that we know what some of those triggers are. We know what a certain kind of pain point, how it's represented in search query, and we can really focus in on that audience to make sure that we're giving them the important things they need. Now, I'll be honest, right? We, over the years, it's been a lot of, trial and, error to get to the right kind of fit, to make sure that we're hitting the right people in the right places.
Yeah, Leah, I think you summed it up perfectly. That the challenges really are, and you'll remember the early days of us working together where we were always trying to find that balance between, like, your ads are too depressing to your like you've sanded off all the edges of what Landmark does. And we'd be getting queries from people saying, "Oh, you're a college for students with learning disabilities. I don't have a learning disability." So it's striking that balance of figuring out where we're representing ourselves accurately, but at the same time, appealingly to all of those different constituents. And one thing we touched on a little bit, but that's why the educator audience is so important to us. And I think, Leah, one of the ways you've helped us figure that out is through places like LinkedIn or professional groups or associations that we try to market more specifically to, where we know, because we know educators as a whole, there are educators who are working specifically with students who have learning disabilities, but then educators as a whole are always working with a wide variety of students and are going to be reaching those students who may or may not need us. So that's such an important part of our targeted marketing elements. And I think you covered it really, really well, Leah.
Yeah, Mark, I think to respond to your point about LinkedIn, it's interesting because that was an early challenge that we faced. Was you had this amazing group of contacts, right, for educators, largely brought in from LCERT, or kind of different initiatives that you guys were doing on campus to engage educators in the right way and help them sort of be ambassadors for the school. And I think one of the early challenges that we heard even in intake sessions was, Landmark College is great, but because of the nature of your audience, you're a changing model, and educators weren't always up to speed with what you were offering and what the latest was and what the developments were. And we were always trying to find ways, like, at that point, it was like email was starting to kind of dull the senses, right? And I think one of the interesting things we've been able to do with customized campaigns and personalized marketing for educators is take a really great custom audience list, or take, attributes of the educator audience that we know you're focused on, and use those to deploy some of these personalized marketing campaigns where we can really show them the things that are new or different at Landmark College that their audiences need to understand. So it helps people, it's an easier lift for people to be ambassadors for your programs because the information is right in front of them where they want to see it. So I think that's a really good example, Mark, and great point about, how we've been able to use personalized marketing, not just for your mainstay, parent and student audiences, but also for educators who depend on Landmark College as a resource and really as a, primary source for students who learn differently generally. And I think you've been such a leader in not just research, but in, setting standards for how, best practices for educating students who do learn differently. And I think through personalized marketing, we've been able to much more successfully deploy those campaigns.
Yeah, and Leah, what you just said brings to mind, our I guess our newest campaign, which is really about LC Online. As we've expanded our online offerings, we've really launched that marketing campaign, as you said, partially to educators because it's so new for us, even though we've been doing online programs for about 10 years. But the expansion of having online associate degrees, to be able to go to them and say, it's not just, hey, here's Landmark College again, but look, we've been doing this and now look what we built, and we have online options for students who learn differently. And that's very attractive because we're located in Vermont, so we can be going to West Coast educators or Canadian educators and be saying, we have these new programs, take a look at us again, and you may have some students who are fit for us.
Yeah. And I think something that's been great about personalized marketing is that it's not just about what we're putting into market, but it's about the information that we're getting back that allows us to better, better develop and design, programs and opportunities that are a fit for your audience. So Mark, I think that's a great point about LC Online, because I think, it's something that was really carefully developed over time. And it's unique in that you as a marketing group were able to really give input into what the needs and interests were because of the ability to aggregate information on what people are searching for, what people are looking for, pulling in even just, organic social media comments, things that told us a lot about what your audience needs were outside of, more formal market research, but really looking at what is our audience craving, what are they looking for, and then bringing that to the academic group so that they could really consider those needs in the way that they concepted and designed LC Online. So I think, it's an interesting point because, while we are obviously so focused on how do we serve the information through personalized marketing, we've also gotten so much opportunity to build around your audience's needs based off of the information that we're able to collect, right? So I think it really it's a two-way street there, and that's been great. So I think, one area of, I think probably the biggest challenge in personalized marketing is the fact that personalized marketing rules and regulations are always changing, right? Google is fantastic, but they're looking at how do we better balance protecting people's personal information, which is a great thing and should be done, but with also giving companies enough information that they can effectively, target and message to people. So I think it's been really important that we have a team that stays really up to date on what changes in, regulations by platform and overall, governance of social media and SEM marketing looks like, in terms of policy change and in terms of all of those things that whittle down to how and where we can use personalized marketing. I think it's just really important, and I think we've done a good job of staying on top of all of those changes as they come and planning ahead for them, right? So we see things, that are going to come into practice, and we're not waiting until those things happen or until, a certain kind of ability to target is removed before we make those changes. We're really looking ahead at, okay, what's coming down the pike and how do we make sure that we continue to serve our audience and serve our clients in the right way without, without disrupting kind of our marketing process, but also adhering to all of the changes and regulations that are coming down the road. So to me, the result of a successful personalized marketing campaign looks like, you've given the audience what they want and they convert for you, right? So in the education landscape, what it looks like is an enrolled student, right? If we get to the point where a student is enrolled, that's, we've brought them through the right journey. And, I think that in today's world, there's this big, concept of last touch versus multi-touch attribution. And I'm a big proponent of multi-touch. I think that you have to bring people through a journey in order to help them, make a decision. And I think that the landscape has really flipped on its head over the last decade where, it used to be that the most important component was getting them in a room, right? You had admissions needed to talk to them so that they could convince them. And of course, we still really believe in that, what I call white glove approach. But on the other side of that, I think if you do personalized marketing campaigns in the right way, you're bringing a more qualified buyer or a more qualified, prospective student to the room to have that last conversation. So by the time, someone gets to that point where they're talking to someone, that's just the way our world is now. They expect that they have a better understanding of who you are and they know that you're a good fit for them. And that's why they're taking the time to talk to you. So it's completely changed the way we have those conversations. So I think a really good personalized marketing campaign looks like giving people the right touch points at the right, place in their journey, and then ultimately getting them into that room so that someone can talk them through, the kind of finer pieces of it and help them not make the decision that Landmark College is right for them, but rather help them, get through the application process, help them with their FAFSAs, help them with the things, that they need to get to become an enrolled student. So ultimately, at the end of the day, a really good personalized journey in my mind looks like someone feeling like they got all the information they needed when and where they needed it, without having to do too much digging, but also, felt like they weren't, being hounded by, by the institution that was marketing to them.
Yeah, that's all, of course, in enrollment and uh, college and university marketing, it's a numbers game. So you're looking for enrollment to prove that your marketing works, which of course that's why we're doing all this stuff. But I love the anecdotal things we get as well. Like every time I can't tell you how many times someone will say, when you ask, how did you find Landmark? And they'll say, I was Googling and you guys came up first, which is all part of our strategy to put resources behind Google Ads and optimize search. Or they'll say, you guys are everywhere. I like see your ads popping up every time I go somewhere. So that, we're doing the right things, and we're getting that both anecdotally and I think with the data that we're tracking as well.